So we did hear about author illustrators, and in the room is one of Canada's best. Mark didn't come to our room, but the story I want to tell about Mark is we worked with some Chinese educators, and they were illustrating some textbooks for English language learning in Beijing, and we worked till midnight, 1 o'clock. And we just gave him an idea, and Mark just illustrated on the spot brilliantly. The concept, the mascot for this particular series was a bear and a squirrel. Guess which one I was? Oh. And Mark teaches at Sheridan College, and his new Pembroke publisher is called Get Graphic. Look at the dialogue balloons here. Get drawing, get writing, get coloring, get storyboarding, get going, get creative, get with it. Mark Thurman.
Have a little stretch break? I mean, you know, that's what I felt like, so I'm up here. If you want to stand up and have a little stretch break, just do that, right? Because you've been sitting for over an hour. Anyway, the book I'm going to talk about is Get Graphic. Larry held it up, I'll hold it up again. This happened again because Mary sort of was bugging me for a longest time to do this book and to sort of pull together a book that really is for teachers and kids at the same time. Was very complex. So when you read this, all the information is totally applicable to teachers, teaching graphic techniques to children, but it's written really, part of it's for teachers. So when a child gets this book, they'll probably go over that very quickly and say, oh yeah. Then they'll get to the part that's more fun, that has illustrations, that really talks about storyboarding. So most of it is written to a 12-year-old, 12 or 13-year-old, all right? Now, a brief history of this book, and I just thought this was appropriate. This book is by Emily Hearn and myself, and it comes from us doing hundreds of storyboard workshops in schools. So it comes from practical hands-on experience. Now, Emily Hearn and I worked for Owl Magazine. In 1976, Owl Magazine started, and they said to Emily, do you know an illustrator that would be interested in science and nature? Because we want to do this comic. So we created a comic called The Mighty Mites in 1976. We created stories for 16 years, so we were co-authors, and I illustrated these comics. So once a month for 16 years. And somewhere along the line, someone said, would you like to come to a school and do a workshop on what you do with our high school students? Okay? And we both said, sure. We had no idea what we were going to do. Now, Emily had some experience teaching. I had none. So we went in, and it was so successful. We loved it so much that we were invited back. And the next year, we worked with those high school students and a public school. And those students wrote stories in conjunction with the public school. And from that time, I've gone to so many hundred schools across Canada doing storyboarding that I can't remember, but way up there. And I learned how to do it. So I was one of those lucky people who learned how to teach through failing all the time at workshops. I mean, constantly trying something that didn't work. And then listening and hearing, just like the two excellent speakers today, picking up lots of things. So storyboarding is something that professional illustrators, cartoonists, and animators use. And this is a storyboard. It's like a calendar. It's a plan, right? As Catherine said, I forget the exact word she used, but it's a visual plan. It has everything on the page from the front cover to the back cover. So when you hand this out to a child, their whole book is right there, right? Now, storyboards in this particular book. So I've tried this with high school students, but also primarily I do that's personally when I do this, my favorite ages are grades 3 to grade 5 because they're free, they have no fear, they jump right in. By the time you're in grade 6, 7, and 8, you're starting to care about everything, and some might look at you the wrong way, and oh, I can't possibly write that or draw that. I mean, that's unfortunately what happens to kids. Recently, I've been doing this with JK in kindergarten. Now, how do you do storyboarding with JK in kindergarten? Well, I'll talk about that a little bit. But anyway, and it takes really good teachers in the school. But anyway, so the storyboards themselves can come 24 pages, 6 pages, 8 pages, 10 pages. There's many different sort of formats in the back of this book. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a few things first. And then I'm going to do some drawing, and I'm going to do some storyboarding. Now, I don't have a an AV presentation because I'm still old school in this respect. But I do have an AV presentation. Here it is, okay? Okay, so I'm going to hold things up. All right, but I just have to find things. Now I have a storyboard here, which obviously you're going to have to look at later if you want to see it, from grade 1s. And it's an 8-page storyboard. I'm just going to take this all out so I can find it quickly. Here are 2. Now I don't expect you to see this in any great detail, but they're very simple, so I will do what I do at schools, okay? These are done by grade 1s, okay? Now grade 1s, again, are fearless. They don't have necessarily the greatest drawing skills. This means the cameraman have to focus, see? I'm making them work because before they just had one focus. I can see them back there going crazy. Get focus, okay? Anyway. And these are from 1993, okay. Show Mary, she probably has never seen these before. Okay, I'm walking around. So now that I've started this, I'll just come to all the tables. I mean, this is what I do when I go to schools. I walk around. Sometimes the teachers say, let me help, and I say no, because then they're not looking at me, you know, I mean, they're concentrating on you. They're not really looking at the storyboards. Anyway. I didn't think this would really work with grade 1s and kindergartens. I was completely surprised, and I'll just show you a few pattern books. And I'll come over here since I started going around the room. Okay, and come over here to Larry and his table. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, so through the years doing this, it's been hugely rewarding. I've learned a tremendous amount, which I actually share a lot of the stuff that I learned through working with the public school system at Sheridan. It's interesting. I teach now in Sheridan in the animation program, and with talented young people, and it's the same things that people are saying here. They're visually telling stories, and of course, sort of all the language literacy and visual literacy go together so much. So now, I will show you one other thing. So this is like the little show and tell part before I draw. Now, how do you have kindergartens and grade 1s do a storyboard? Okay. Obviously, someone like me, when I come in, or you as a teacher in your class, you're sharing stories, you're reading to them, you're having to tell them stories, tell stories to each other. So when I go in and I'm sitting with a bunch of kindergarten kids in front of me, and I'm freaking out because what kind of language level am I going to use to talk to them, right? Of course, I have to find a slightly different language level, okay? And it's some of the very simple things that Judy and Catherine were saying. Now, so I came up with some patterns. Basically, children in kindergarten, grade 1 understand beginning, middle, and end, right? So beginning, middle, and end. So they make big books, small books. So in this case, it's the happy dog, okay? It's 3 folded pieces of paper with a back cover where they can write their own little bio and put a picture of themselves, or possibly even try and draw a little portrait, but anyway. So these big books are very successful. So the happy dog, there's no language. Okay. So this is a pattern, and some of the children will copy it, and some will make up their own things. But basically, that's the beginning, page 1 and 2. So they learn sequencing. So very powerful drawings, what both of the speakers were talking about, getting the emotion involved. The dog has lost the ball, so when I show this, the kids see very quickly, and you already know the ending. Right? And so do the kids. In kindergarten and grade 1, they know the ending. What is it? He went off to have a hamburger. No, okay, so he found the ball, or she found the ball. So a simple pattern telling the story. It also does something different. It changes point of view. It uses close-ups. And if you've ever worked with kids, and you don't have to be a good artist, some of the things I'll share with you have to do with people who can't draw mostly, who are afraid to draw and afraid to use visual images, okay? You can talk about point of view and use good examples from lots of different books, but this ties upon visual literacy and all the television, videos, movies that kids watch. And what we were surprised to find out is that kids understood all this language because they watched so much visual material. Not so much from books, because books are much more subtle in how they present it, but through watching TV, so it's interesting. They understood foreground, they understood midground, background, they understood an over-the-shoulder shot. You know, all these things. They understood close-up, they understood extreme close-up. But unless you use these languages, this language or these concepts, they won't use it in the classroom. They draw everything from a mid-shot view horizontally with 3 kids on a horizon, or 3 characters on a horizon, so I'll draw this right now. So if we were doing a storyboard for a book or a comic or a graphic novel, it wouldn't matter. In this case, this could be 2 panels or 2 pages, right in a book, okay? So page 3 and 4 or something. So also, you know, children are going to draw their little, I'm going to do it's a little simple stick figure carrying a balloon, right? They will draw it on the bottom of the page. So my first thing is the bottom of the page isn't the ground. Draw the ground. Okay, so draw the ground, number 1, okay? The next thing is you can use stick figures. So you do that and you put some big ears, a couple of whiskers, a little eye, carrying a couple of balloons, okay, walking along. Now, that's storytelling. And probably any teacher here can do that. Now, can you see that over there?
Yep.
It's hard to get it to where everybody's going to see, right? I have to get one of those presentation things where you draw on it, like the people used to do 35 or 40 years ago on TV. Okay, I'm going to show you another story. Another sort of pattern book. Now, these are my patterns. If you like these, you can borrow them, but you have to draw it yourself. I'm not going to give these out. I'm very happy for you to take this idea directly, and I'm serious. Make up your own, okay? So, title, and it shows the kids that on the front cover, you're going to have your title. You're going to have, so this one, I had the title. Okay, and this one, it just says title. There's a kind of caterpillar worm, and the author is on the front. The back page, of course, sometimes children will work together, so both of their pictures will be there, and a bio. So this, again, is a beginning, middle, end book. Okay, so sunny day, birds are flying. To get some water, there's a little worm walking along. They're looking down, so it's a bird's eye view. Down into the water fountain, and they're all parched. So this is getting the emotions in. So I love listening to other people because they're doing it through language, I'm doing it through images. It's the same ideas of storytelling, but they're different skill sets. But they're exactly the same thing. And what happens next, of course, so it rains, and they're in there having a good old time. And you might notice that the birds haven't eaten the worm, okay? So, you know, occasionally a child will say, how come the birds haven't eaten the worm? Well, okay. Okay, so now, so these are patterns. Now, another thing is, of course, when I work with the kids and you're working with your kids, you want them to do the final book. How are they going to illustrate this book? To get kids to draw, and they don't have to do big books like this, but some of the schools I've worked in, they have done big books like this. It's just a single piece of construction paper folded in half, so this saves on waste and all these things. Fold it in half, there you go, 3 pieces. You can plan your budget, right, for the kids in your class. You can get colored construction paper. So in this case, so let me just make sure I find the correct ones in sequence. And I did one of these way before Silverwing.